Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. I am Gyi from Attorney Sync, and I am happy to be home.
And I'm Conrad Som from Mockingbird, and I still have a cough, so I'm going to be downing Ricola while we chat. But the funny fact about me is, no matter how hard I try, I can never grow a mustache or a beard that looks anything like other than I'm homeless. Those of you who don't get to see Adam from home, Adam's sporting a really fetching mustache. I'm assuming this is for Movember, or maybe you're just going full mustache. No, it's a good look. I can't do it.
Well, we don't just talk about facial here on Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. We also talk about marketing law firms. And speaking of marketing and marketing law firms, Conrad, we are home. I said I was grateful to be home. I am home from conference season. I saw you on the road a bunch.
Yeah.
Is your conference season over?
No, thank you very much for the 6-hour drive I have to do this Saturday for the Washington State Small and Solo Conference that is on the peninsula, which requires a ferry ride, as you know, to get to. So it's a
beautiful area, and you should be very grateful that you have the opportunity to visit.
Thank you. My gratitude is overflowing for you.
I can tell. Well, what else will we be talking about today, Conrad?
So as usual, we are going to start with the news. We are going to use maybe a retraction, a quasi-retraction, to come into our next segment, which is called How Not to Get Screwed by Your Digital Marketing Agency. And then we're going to answer a question from one of our users. Listeners.
Oh, JK. Shit. Hit it now.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
All right, if you are watching this on YouTube and enjoying my terrible facial hair today, please like, subscribe, keep the conversation going, leave a comment. We're going to have one of our segments today from a listener comment, listener question. So please ask us questions. And if you would like to listen to, we're recording this right after Halloween. Our most recent episode on Halloween was the top 10 tales of marketing terror. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
And as you're probably listening to this near Thanksgiving, we'll also drop a link to some of our content on gifting. And as Conrad mentioned, I believe that we should make a retraction in some of our conversations about ways that agencies might deceive you in terms of data. And in particular, this issue of brand versus non-brand. Conrad, I know you have some thoughts on this. Forgetting about any specific agency partner.
Sure.
Any agency could implement a system to, mislead you about brand versus non-brand performance. Let's get into the details about what that actually means and how much a lawyer needs to know about this in order to protect themselves. Because again, and this is kind of the whole point of this episode, is what level of knowledge does a lawyer need to have about ad accounts, SEO, in order to really protect themselves? So let's talk about the specific brand versus non-brand issue. Talk to us. Tell us what the issue is. Outline the issue.
Sure. So the primary issue is economics. And it goes back to why I believe and why Gyi believes that it is very important to separate these branded versus non-branded queries. Especially in the pay-per-click in the pay-per-click game. And so let's go back to the economics of this. If someone is looking for your brand, they are pretty likely to already be interested in connecting with you. Phone call, form fill, text, or chat. So you're looking at a cost per lead. And that conversion rate is going to be pretty high because they're already looking for the brand. Secondly, what they're going to pay for that brand is actually really low. And and we're going to get into this a little bit, and if you've heard me talk about this before, you'll know we used to be able to buy branded clicks for less than $1, right? Now that has dramatically increased, and we're going to get into why that has become problematic. But you used to be able to buy branded clicks for less than $1, and the phone call, form fill, text, or chat would cost you something very close to the high $4 figure. That's going back about 6 years. Conversely, if you were bidding on mesothelioma lawyer, your bid was $285. Not many people would actually convert, and your cost per lead in this case was, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000, $3,000. And so if you average those two things together and you convince the law firm that they're actually paying for mesothelioma lawyer, or you're generating leads for mesothelioma lawyer, when instead it was actually just, opposing counsel using pay-per-click to find your phone number through a branded campaign, that's a great way to make yourself look better than you actually are, right? It is the plastic surgery of digital marketing. I like that line. That might be a good headline for us. And so that's why we've always talked about separating these out and looking at them fundamentally differently. And the way people actually bid on terms, and we're going to get into the real nitty gritty of pay-per-click campaigns, and I'm going to read this directly from Google, is what's called keyword match types. And you have broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And these are ways that you can start confusing what you're actually bidding on. So broad match, and I'm going to read, this is these are Google's current words, which are, by the way, inaccurate. So let me call that out, and we will not retract that one. Broad match, ads may show on searches that relate to your keyword. So if you look for lawyer, you might get Law and Order, right? The TV show. Phrase match, ads may show on searches that include the meaning of your keyword. So the examples that they use here are cheap furniture stores, living room furniture deals. What store is the best place to find a bedroom dresser, right? So if your keyword is something around furniture or bedroom furniture, those types of queries can actually trigger the ad. And then you have exact match. Ads may show on searches that are the same meaning as your keyword. Now, this has evolved. Exact match used to actually mean exact match. So if you were looking for carabiner or purple carabiner or purple keychain carabiner, it would only show up for that exact query in that exact order, right? So it was an exact match. And so that was one way that people were able to differentiate between, am I looking for this specific law firm, or am I looking for this type of lawyer, but I don't have anyone in mind? And you could be very, very clear around the exact versus phrase match. What Google has done over time is they have deliberately confused across those match types, brand names, Morgan & Morgan, with non-branded names, right? So car accident lawyer. So now, using Google's words here, ads may show on searches that have the same meaning as your keyword. They believe Morgan & Morgan, the brand, has the same meaning as the keyword car accident lawyer. And this is where this stuff starts to get really convoluted and complicated. And it's why now the cost per conversion on branded terms, you used to buy those clicks at $1. Now you're buying them at about $11 or $12, and the cost per conversions are about $95. Okay. And if you follow the math that way, it used to be about 1 in 20 converted of a brand query, of exact match brand query, would convert into 1 in 3 would convert, 1 in 3 to 5 would convert into a lead. And now it's about 1 in 19. 1 in 9, not 19, 1 in 9. And so the performance has gotten worse because Google is deliberately conflating these things. So all of this brings me back to, a really good agency can cleverly use these differences between broad match, phrase match, and exact match, segment out keywords to try and show a campaign that's only ostensibly showing up for branded keywords, but they can deliberately let those non-branded keywords leak into the non-branded campaign by using Google's deliberate conflation of exact versus broad match, of brand versus non-branded queries, or B, deliberately having very, very broad match in type terms in their non-branded campaigns. So they can deliberately be bidding on branded keywords by using very, very broad matched keywords in their non-branded campaign. I hope that all makes sense. Gyi, do you want to summarize? I know I was throwing a ton of buzzwords out there.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's great. I'm glad we did a deep dive on that. I think the big issue is that as you mentioned at the outset, the economics of what are being reported to you aren't necessarily what are being reported to you when there's conflation of brand versus non-brand. And the other thing that we see, of course, is that if your partner, whatever they are, could be a consultant, could be an agency, could be fractional something.
Fractional CMO?
Could be.
A little foreshadowing for you?
Could be. The point being, though, that where you're giving credit is in the wrong place, or it's misunderstood. It's misattributed. So anyway, Conrad, I would say this to you. Now that you've outlined the problem in depth, what does a lawyer need to know minimum in order to go back and be like, okay, I'm protecting myself from this?
So the beauty of this is you can actually go in and see some of the keywords that you're actually bidding on, assuming you have access to your AdWords account. And that's I think, to me, when there's a moat between reporting and what's
hold
actually
on.
there.
Access. What's access to? Well, I'm going to say, is it access or is it ownership? Are you protected if you just have access without ownership of the account?
I think they're two different things. Access, you can see what's going on.
But you need full access. You need full access.
Right.
Not like limited access.
Ownership means I can kick you out. So they're different problems.
Okay.
You want access to actually be able to view this information.
And what is
go
when
look
you
at
say
your
access?
Yeah.
You mean the ability to log into the platform.
Log into the platform and actually look at the non-branded campaigns, and you'll be able to see keywords. You don't see a full set, but you will see some of the keywords. And what you're looking for those keywords are there instances where the ads are being triggered and therefore being attributed to non-branded advertising that are actually branded terms. And that's what you want to log in and look into. Your other point, though, valid, not super related to this, you need ownership of this. You need to be able to kick me or Gyi or your CMO or whoever is controlling your ads out, because otherwise they have control and you don't. Separate issue, but very important.
Yeah, I think the short version of this is that it's absolutely mandatory that you have access to the platforms that companies are buying media for you on, because otherwise, if you're looking at it through a third-party tool or some filtered report that they're sending, they're controlling what you see versus you being able to actually see the underlying, media that's going on in the campaigns. And that's the issue. So the takeaway is you must have access and you must have enough knowledge to be able to look into ad groups, look at ad copy, and look at search query reports to see the combinations of what searches are showing up versus in different campaigns and ad groups.
And we started this and we'll end this with this. It is because the economics are so fundamentally different, you need to be able to separate those two campaigns out. Otherwise, it looks like your agency, your CMO, whatever it might be, is doing a better job than they actually are. Gyi, are there any other examples of where agencies take credit for stuff that they don't deserve?
I mean, would you
like to share them?
Well, again, we're recording here after Halloween, and I was reminded by a post that I had put out because this issue had come up, and so it inspired me to go post on LinkedIn. But essentially, it's the Scooby-Doo meme where Fred is unmasking the ghost, and the meme is that a SEO lead, and then the agency, like us, would unmask that ghost, and it turns out, no, it's actually a referral lead. And the issue is...
Scooby-Doo? I was like, where are you going with this, dude? Okay, I like it.
You have to see the meme. You have to see the meme
Okay.
for it to make sense.
Cool.
So not audio only. But anyway, point being that we run into this I know you run into this too, where the agency, the SEO agency, is reporting on, look at all of these awesome leads coming from organic. And there's no conversation about what percentage of those are coming from brand queries and from non-brand queries. And so again, the agency's like slapping high fives because they generate all these SEO, quote unquote, SEO leads. But most of those, especially if you're working with a client who has significant brand, they're not non-brand lower funnel lawyer lookups, they're brand searches. And so it's the same thing. It's the same concept that you're talking about in ads. It's a conflation between or a lack of granularity into the actual query data to understand what the makeup of those leads are. And it goes to the point that we bring up all the time too. To really get this also, you've got to be asking the how did you hear about us? You have to be layering in the qualitative self-reported data, because a lot of those SEO leads, if you ask the person on the phone, how did you hear about it? And they're like, I was referred to you by so-and-so. Well, guess what? That's a brand lookup. They didn't go and be like, I'm searching personal injury lawyer near me, and then click on your listing and then be like, yeah, thank goodness I searched and found you on a non-brand query because I was referred to you by my friend. It's not how it works.
So, and you said lack of granularity. I actually think it's worse. I think it's more nefarious. I think it is implied granularity from the agency, right? And they know better.
I know.
And
I think some do. I think some do, and I think some, especially maybe not agency, but in consultant land, that they don't.
Wow, you're saying consultants are worse than agencies? That is a broad brushstroke. I like you doing that.
I don't like any of these buzzwords. To me, it's all about being a trusted advisor. I don't care if you're an agency, you're a consultant, you're a fractional, whatever you are. The point being is that you're providing strategic guidance. And some of the people that I see in the marketplace, like they don't understand this degree of detail. And so I don't think it's always nefarious. I think for sure, some of the examples that you've brought up in the past, there's intentional conflation going on. But I think a lot of folks too, like if you start getting into, like you talk to folks about segmenting brand and non-brand Google search query data, a lot of folks are not thinking about that.
Well, so two separate thoughts on this. Number one, if you're not thinking about that, you should not be a consultant or an agency or a fractional CMO, period. Like that, you're out of your depth. I hate to be that mean, but like that is a fact. Number two, specific and germane to what Gyi was talking about with Google Business Profiles claiming value for those SEO queries. I've said this from a long time ago. This is why you need to separate as two fundamentally different marketing channels: SEO, organic search, natural search, whatever you want to call it, and local search. Local search is a yellow pages lookup for brand. That happens all the time. It's not the only way it triggers, but it happens all the time. That is, so you really have to break those two out as two different marketing channels, because what you will see is your other offline or even online branding efforts will start to show up an improvement in Google Business Profile. It's not because your SEO is doing better. They are two different channels with two different tactical sets.
And not to mention, this is another nuance we talk about all the time. If you have brand, your non-brand performance is going to be better. And so again, you're not there's a lack of acknowledge. There's a credit taking going on by a lot of agencies, even in the non-brand space, that are drafting off of the brand impact, even beyond the keyword conflation.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to us and watching us on YouTube. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being a YouTube viewer of this podcast. This comes from a question submitted on YouTube to one of our Lunch Hour Legal Marketing hors d'oeuvres. Blast Call Legal PLLC asks this. Hey, a question for the guys. For years now, we've heard that a basic ingredient for optimizing local search is NAP consistency. Now, my firm has recently redone our website, but part of that process was supplying a new phone number on the website, a tracking phone number. Is that not counterproductive? Gyi, we've heard this question recently more than I ever thought we would. Let's put this one to bed.
Yes, we covered this at Great Legal Marketing Summit. I think we've covered this also on some prior episodes. Short version, NAP consistency is name, address, phone consistency all over the web. A long time ago, local SEOs relied heavily on NAP consistency because it did seem to correlate strongly with rankings related to the reliability of the information. In theory, Google has more reliable information. They're more likely to show your business. Over time, it really seemed like they dialed that NAP consistency thing back, but it didn't really matter because from a Google business profile tracking perspective, this problem has been solved for years, in my view, because the best practice is to put a call tracking number on your Google business profile and your hard-coded number on your alternative. And on your website, you do the same. You would hard-code it and layer in a dynamic number insertion from like CallRail or something to be able to track source visitors on your website. Problem solved.
And so when you mean hard-coded, it basically includes that number in the code of your website, and it uses code to say this is the phone number of the law firm, and you use your primary phone number there. Just that is never displayed to a user because a dynamic phone number is going to be inserted. So what they see and what Google reads from a code perspective are two different things. And at the risk of pandering to our favorite advertiser, maybe I shouldn't even say that, but one of our favorite advertisers, CallRail, is both Gyi and I have been using CallRail for years and years and years. They are the pioneer and kind of the leading market for dynamic call tracking. So I assume that's what you would be working with.
Yeah, and I would, just to be clear, I think, because again, for the person that asked a question, if you had got a new phone number, if you got a new tracking number, and it's hard-coded on your website, if that's what's going on, not what Conrad just described, that's a real problem because you are confusing. You're bringing a new number into the NAP that's a tracking number on your website. You don't want to do that.
This would be a really bad digital marketing agency that would do something like that. So in conjunction with, for all of you sitting out there listening, do I have a bad agency or a good agency? Because I've got this thing going on. You should have access. We were talking about access just 4 minutes ago, Gyi. You should have access and ownership of your CallRail account. And if you get one of these tracking numbers that does not come with access to a dynamic phone call tracking firm like CallRail, you need that. Or it's an indicator
and you certainly
that your
shouldn't be
agency's not doing a good
hard-coding.
job.
Yeah, you certainly shouldn't be hard-coding tracking numbers on your website.
Right. Hey, Gyi.
Yep.
How would I determine whether or not I've hard-coded a tracking phone number on my website? What's a quick way that I can check that?
Well, the easiest thing is if it's not like in a JavaScript or something like that. Like if it's like a tracking number that's just like with the tell HTML around it, like or it's in your JSON LD. Like if you've got the tracking number and it's marked up with JSON LD, that's a big no. So you got to check the code.
Check the code. And so how would one check the code? This is where I was going. How would one check the code, Gyi?
Well, you depending on what you want to open the developer tool. I use Chrome developer tools, so I right mouse click and view source is an easy one.
Right mouse click, view source, and then what are you going to search for?
I'm going to search for the phone number, and I'm going to look
for
at
that
the
number
markup
that you are concerned about.
Yep, and then I'm going to look around the code around the phone number to see is it just plain text? Is it wrapped in JavaScript? Is there a TEL markup around that phone number? I'm going to look for the JSON LD, so that's JSON-LD, and see if that's surrounding the hard-coded number, or the tracking number. And if it is, then I'd be calling my web dev because that will create problems for NAP consistency. Because Google was coming to your website and thinking that the phone number is not the same one that they're finding around the web.
And if you found that, you would not call your web developer. You would call AttorneySync to find as your new agency.
Call Conrad up.
Call someone else. All right. We have thrown enough shade at too many people today. We are usually less grumpy and more well-shaven.
Thank you all for listening to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Until next time, Connor and Gyi saying farewell.
I realize that I'm bad at ending the show because I just babble. I talk too much. It's not a good job for me.
You have a lot of great insights, though.
Money makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.
Yeah, money make a world go